Okay, frame of mind. This is an interesting one because of the fact that it's literally an episode where the majority of what happens in the episode is literally in Riker's imagination. It doesn't exist outside Riker's imagination. Yeah, trying to adapt that. Challenging. See, because like the key issue with this one is that the original plot is not actually something that you can directly adapt into something that has multiple characters. And because it's inside Riker's mind that it's happening, so you would need some sort of like a shared delusional alternate consciousness thing to have a group of people doing this, which would make it less um what's it, I blanked on the right word for it, dang it. One of the key aspects of this is figuring out what's real and what isn't. Obviously at the beginning you know that something is wrong. I mean, why is Riker on the planet Tilonus? I mean, why is he in the Tilonus Institute for Medical Disorders? Well, okay, on the surface, you don't know at the beginning. The real answer is that someone on Tilonus was trying to use a complicated device to extract information from him, and that this person is a black market arms dealer and created the false reality as a way of tricking the people he was using the device on into letting their guard down. Well, making that something you have multiple people uh, in at the same time, not necessarily an easy thing. Like the entire idea of being uncertain what's real and what isn't, you have to create an in-universe justification for switching between the two perceptions. See, because one of the things you don't realize at the beginning of this is that both realities are fake. At the beginning, what you see is like of Riker on the Enterprise and with the play, or on Tilonus in the mental health facility. Both of those were fake. And that was actually one of the key things that Riker had to figure out, is that it it wasn't a choice between the two of them. And figuring out the reality was the real trick to it. Well, anyways, so what can you actually do with this in a TTRPG? The idea of being locked in some sort of like a holographic simulation is actually something that's been played with in Star Trek rather often. A lot of the things that you see in TNG and Voyager as holodeck safeguards, if the holodeck was designed differently, especially if it's an alien holodeck that doesn't even use the same technology that Federation models use, you could have a completely different setup of safeguards. Like one of the things that they noticed in Voyager with the caretaker arrays version of a holodeck is that it genuinely had actual food in it. When you ate a meal in the caretaker's version of a holodeck, you actually ate a meal. What exactly the system did in order to create that, they didn't understand because alien technology. But it was actually real in some way. Anyway, though, now having something where you aren't certain what exactly is going on. See, the whole like holodeck simulation thing, has a different angle that you end up with, though, because that's not something where you can have a proper uncertainty of the reality. Because the real thing with this episode is why the this part is Riker even on Talonis? That is the real question in the episode. All of the stuff of is this real or is this fake is actually just a distraction. And that aspect of the story is something that you can play with much more easily. It's because Riker is told at the beginning that he is guilty of some sort of a crime, but they need to he has somehow suffered amnesia and has forgotten the crime. Thus, he must undergo psychotherapy in order to remember the crime that he is guilty of. And that's how they start the episode. Which, in terms of setting up a plot for players to mess with, a lot of players would hate a story like that, quite frankly. So, is it something that's a good idea? Quite frankly, my main thought on this one is that while it's an interesting story premise, it's not something that Star Trek Adventures is well suited to. It really isn't. You could make it work, I'm sure. Um, Really more like a Call of Cthulhu thing. uh, Also, the neurosomatic technique, they have actually had things like this in multiple episodes, because this is actually something that you will find with Borg cybernetics, is that Borg cybernetics have the ability to create a mind machine interface in order to download copies of all of your memories. This is actually a less sophisticated version because of the fact that while it can uh, acquire information, this doesn't have the ability to directly um, acquire a specific information. This simply pulls surface thoughts, and the person using it has to trick you into thinking about certain things in order for this to acquire information. And far less sophisticated, but that's part of what makes it an interesting plot device, is that it has limitations where it can't just read your mind like an open book. It has to trick you into opening the right page, because it can only read the page that the book is open to. It can't open the book. That actually does make for an interesting plot aspect. Now, again, though, is that a key part of this is having the audience not know what the gimmick is. Because that's the thing that I've seen with similar stories in other works of fiction, is that the audience needs to be uncertain which is real, eh, or what is real. If the audience knows what is real at the beginning, then they're like, haha, that's nice, and most of the dramatic tension is kind of left out. Although that does, on some occasions, add a new level of dramatic tension of a different sort, but, well, that's more of making your own fun rather than the fun being actually a feature of the work of fiction. Anyways, yeah, honestly, this is a rather simple episode, because like it's mostly just like a really, really long-winded thing of people talking about stuff. The alien of the week makeup is interesting looking, but these aliens of the week are apparently just rubber forehead aliens. They're like one of the most rubber forehead aliens who ever exist. I don't actually think that they had wigs for the actors even. They just applied rubber foreheads to their faces and called it good. Now, it is interesting that they have them in different costumes, but none of those costumes is actually all that interesting. It's just regular TNG costumes. Like the one guy at one point appears wearing a Starfleet science officer uniform, and that alien race's fashion trend is also in the bland bodysuit category. Eh, I'm not saying it's bad. I'm just saying it's um the way that that happened in the episode. And yeah, that's about it. Like playing with the whole what is real thing in a TTRPG, it's kind of hard because you don't just see things. You have to talk about what you think you're seeing, and that adds a completely different layer of ambiguity to it. So the fundamental method of communicating the ambiguity that is the core of the plot needs to be completely rethought. And I'm not saying it's a bad idea. The actual idea is kind of fun, and it's probably why it's been used so often in science fiction, like Total Recall, for example. I think they've had Twilight Zone or Outer Limits episodes that mess with the same idea. It's just, is it a TTRPG thing that works well? I would argue no. But if you want to try it, go for it. Make your own fun, as the saying goes. Oh well, you guys have fun. See you later.